I'll never forget that eerie stretch of spring. Those weird weeks after college ended but before life really began. No job yet, no classes, just silence. I was caught between chapters. You'd think having all that free time would feel like freedom, but it didn't. It felt like I was suspended in a void, watching everyone else keep moving while I stood still. So when my mom asked me to do a favor, check on my Uncle Rick's beach house in Delaware, I jumped at it. Anything to make me feel useful. The plan was simple. Drive down from Pennsylvania, make sure the pipes weren't leaking, flip a few breakers, tighten some doorknobs, then head home. I left that afternoon, later than I should have, to be honest. I remember the sun sinking low as I reached Rehoboth Beach. The house stood quietly at the end of a winding road, tucked behind tall grass and silent beach cottages. Uncle Rick's house is a beast, big enough to hold 24 noisy relatives every summer. But that day it was just me. And for the first time in my life, I saw it without laughter, without card games or loud cousins. It felt hollow, abandoned, like the walls missed us. Still, I walked through the checklist. Water ran fine. Nothing broken, breakers were solid. All seemed well. But as dusk fell and shadows grew longer, a strange unease crept over me. I've never liked driving at night, so I texted my mom and let her know I'd crash there and leave at sunrise. She agreed. I made a sandwich, scrolled my phone, and decided, why not sleep in the master bedroom? No cousins to fight over it this time. That room was luxurious, giant bed, walk-in closet, its own bathroom. I climbed under the covers close to midnight, thinking I'd sleep like royalty. But something woke me. I don't know what time it was, just that my eyes snapped open, and my heart immediately pounded. I thought I'd heard something from the closet. It wasn't loud, not a crash. More like a quiet shift, like something gently moved. I turned my head toward the closet door. Just looking at it made my chest tighten. My mind was alert, but my body refused to act. I could move, technically, but I didn't dare. I shut my eyes tight, willing myself to fall back asleep. Then I heard it again, a low, soft thump. My breath hitched. My muscles tensed. Every part of me was screaming to not look. But curiosity is a cruel thing. I cracked my eyes open, just enough to peek. That's when I froze. The closet door slowly creaked open. Someone stepped out. A shadowy figure emerged, tall, unmoving, its face lost in the dark. But I could feel it watching me, just standing there, not saying a word, not making a move. It didn't last more than 20 seconds, but every heartbeat felt like an eternity. Then, without warning, it turned and left the room. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I heard it, those slow, deliberate footsteps. But they weren't heading downstairs. They were going up, to the 3rd floor. The problem is there's no exit up there. No fire escape. No balcony. Just bedrooms. I was frozen with fear. What if he was armed? What if I ran and made a sound? All I could do was lie there, drowning in panic. Finally, I snapped out of it. Quietly, I reached for my phone and dialed 911. I whispered as softly as I could that someone was inside the house. Then I locked the bedroom door and waited. Time crawled. Eventually, red and blue lights painted the windows. I bolted downstairs and practically collapsed into the officer's arms. They didn't waste a second, rushed in, searched the house. And then came the part that still makes my skin crawl. They found nothing. No one. They told me he must have slipped past me, ran out while I was calling them. But I know what I saw. I heard him go upstairs. There was nowhere else to go. I wasn't satisfied, so I called Uncle Rick. He was furious, demanded they check again, properly this time. The officers agreed and let me follow as they combed every corner of the house. They opened every door, checked under every bed, knocked on the walls like they were searching for secret rooms. In one of the 3rd floor bedrooms, the very one I always stayed in during summer trips, they found something. The window was unlocked. One cop stayed by the door. The other stepped out onto the back deck, shining his flashlight across the yard. I followed him. Honestly, I just couldn't stay inside any longer. Then his light swung upward, and there he was, sitting on the roof. It was him, a bald man with sunken eyes, dressed in shredded clothing, dirt clinging to every inch of his skin. He didn't flinch, didn't move, just stared down at us like we weren't real. The next hour was chaos. Backup came. They talked him down. Got him in cuffs. He never spoke, not a word, just kept that distant, hollow expression on his face like none of this was happening. The cops said he was probably homeless. had broken in and been living there for days, maybe longer, but no one could explain how he got in, or why he was hiding in the closet, or how he got to the roof, because from the ground, it's unreachable. I think about it sometimes. What if I had gone to my usual room on the 3rd floor? What if I hadn't stayed with the master? I don't like to think about the answer. And as for Uncle Rick, he still refuses to install security cameras. I haven't been back since. To shake off the grogginess. It was hot, but the sea breeze made it tolerable. The day passed lazily. The room spun. We weren't alone. Mike grabbed his phone and called the cops. I locked the bedroom door and shoved a dresser in front of it. Minutes crawled by like hours. When the police finally arrived, we ran down to meet them and explained everything as quickly as we could. They ordered us to stay outside while they searched the house. We stood by the front steps, watching the lights from their flashlights sweep across the windows. device never actually left. I was 22 when this happened. It's been long enough now that I finally feel ready to share it, though even today, some parts of it make my stomach twist. I had just graduated and was riding a pretty smooth wave in life. Good job, few expenses, and thanks to my amazing parents, I was staying in my childhood home rent-free. I knew how lucky I was. Most of my friends were scraping by on their own, but I was banking savings, living in comfort, and had the freedom to come and go as I pleased. I wasn't one for partying or hookups. Never had been. I liked my routines: coffee in the morning, work, gym, a quiet evening with a book or my phone. But when Lindsay, one of my closest college friends, invited me for a weekend at her family's beach house, I decided to break the cycle. Lindsay's family? Wealthy. The kind of wealthy where a beach house isn't a luxury, it's just another house. She'd always described the place as secluded, sitting on its own private stretch of shoreline. But I was still floored when I saw it. The structure looked like something out of a spy thriller. Sleek, minimalist, eerily quiet. It gave off an air of stillness, almost like it wasn't meant to be lived in. The four of us, me, Lindsay, Sabrina, and Thea, chose to bunk together in a kid's bedroom with 2 sets of bunks and our own bathroom. Felt nostalgic in a weird way. The first couple of nights were relaxed, easy. We drank, talked, stargazed on the beach. The air was salty and thick with summer warmth. A soft wind danced through the seagrass. It felt safe. That illusion shattered on the 3rd night. We were sitting on the beach, sipping canned cocktails and letting house music hum from a portable speaker. That's when we noticed it, off in the distance, a flicker of light bobbing up and down. At first, it was easy to ignore. But soon it became clear. It was a flashlight and it was getting closer. A group of 3 guys eventually came into view, laughing, talking like they were just strolling the sand after a night out. One of them called out a casual, "Hey," and Thea responded. They seemed normal, harmless. They sat down with us, beers in hand. We talked, laughed, and shared stories. Typical vacation banter. The guys were beach boy types, tan, relaxed, just a little flirtatious, but not over the top. My friends seemed to enjoy their company, especially Thea. Eventually, they invited us to continue the night at their place. I wasn't feeling it. My energy was gone, and I wasn't about to follow strangers back to an unknown location. I told the girls I was going to turn in, and they were free to go without me. So I did. I walked back alone along the dark shoreline, the waves lapping gently beside me. The house stood quiet and still as I re-entered it. I washed up and slipped into bed, thinking the night had ended peacefully. Then came the call. It was just after 3 a.m. Lindsay's name lit up my phone. Confused, I answered in a groggy voice. She was screaming. Her words hit me like ice water. "They took them. Sabrina and Thea. They've been taken. I need you to get my car, now." Adrenaline surged. I barely processed what I was hearing. I pulled on whatever clothes I could find and flew down the stairs barefoot, still on the phone with her. I asked why she called me and not the cops. She said she had called the police, but I was closer to the house and she needed me to follow the car. She walked me through opening the front gate and where to find her spare keys. I jumped into the driver's seat, started the engine, and peeled out of the driveway. She said they'd driven west, about 10 houses down. I sped down the road, heart pounding, scanning every vehicle. Then I saw it. A dark SUV creeping along in the distance. It matched her description. I ended the call and immediately dialed the police, giving them my location and the car's direction. The dispatcher told me to keep my distance. I obeyed. The next few minutes felt like a lifetime. Then, flashing red and blue lights appeared up ahead. The SUV didn't even try to run. I guess they didn't think it had anything to do with them. But the cops weren't confused. I pulled over and watched from behind as the officers drew their weapons, shouting commands. The 3 men were yanked from the car, thrown to the ground, cuffed. Then came the part 1 can't erase from my mind. One officer went to the trunk and opened it. Sabrina and Thea were inside. Bound. Bruised. Alive, but barely. The sight broke me. They were rushed to safety. The guys were taken into custody. And that was just the beginning. The days that followed were a blur of statements, evidence, and legal battles. The house those men had claimed wasn't even theirs. It belonged to an elderly couple vacationing abroad. Turns out, the guys had been squatting, using the place as bait. Lindsay later told me what really happened. After I left, things escalated. One of the men got aggressive when Lindsay said she was heading back. He shouted at her, telling her to get lost. She left, but forgot her purse. She returned minutes later and saw it, Thea and Sabrina being dragged into the car. She called 911. Then she called me. If I hadn't answered, if I'd hesitated, I don't know how this would have ended. For years, I couldn't look at a beach without feeling sick. I avoided late night walks, cut ties with strangers, even distanced myself from the girls for a while. But time has passed. We're still close. We survived. Not everyone does. So next time you think something feels safe, remember this story. Because monsters don't always wear masks. Sometimes, they show up with a smile and a beer on a quiet beach under the stars. That was another true story. If you're still watching, you're one of the brave ones. Most don't make it this far. Subscribe to Horror Stories and hit the bell because the next horror stories drop soon. Stay scared. Stay safe. We'll see you in the dark.